Hey, thanks for tuning into the Land and Home Show. Today we're talking all about solar power. Hi, I'm Stephen J.B. Davis, your land specialist and residential realtor here in Central Kentucky and beyond. Today I am with two awesome folks, which you'll learn a lot more about here in a second, but we're in Louisville. They've just arrived in the state of Kentucky, and their names are Chris and Andy. Chris is to my right, Andy's riding in the back there. And gentlemen, as we take off here to ride around the wonderful Highland area of Louisville, I just want you to let the people know who you are more specifically and what you do.
Thanks, Stephen. So my name is Chris Noonan. I am the land manager for a utility scale solar company out of Denver, Colorado. That's where I live. I've known Stephen for a number of years now through our real estate land network, and had the opportunity to get to know him and talk a lot about different engagements with land and energy and kind of the specialties that we both reside in. And so we're here to talk about utility scale solar, residential solar, and how it relates to the state of Kentucky. And behind me is my coworker, Andy Hixson.
Thanks, Chris. As Chris said, I work in the same utility scales solar development space based out of Colorado. I've known Stephen for a matter of minutes, but
True.
I like him. I like him very much already, and work hand in hand with Chris to put solar projects together. And we are here in Kentucky this week to look at a potential project in Western Kentucky.
So the question at hand, and don't interrupt Stephen.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, he's got the questions in front of him, folks, so he knows what's coming. But
yeah, so the question at hand is, what is solar? So
yeah, what is solar power? Like, how does it work? Let the people know.
So solar is obviously a collection of energy from the sun, and in order to harness that energy, you need to have solar panels. You're likely familiar with solar panels as they pertain to ones that go on your roof. That is residential solar, but what we work in is utility scale solar. So there's two differences in how those are done, what they capture from the sun, how that energy is harnessed and delivered to the grid, and what the purpose of each of those is.
So a lot of the people I talk to, okay, don't mind me. There's no, you had a stop sign, lady. See, you're tapping into my road rage, people. But a lot of people that get in touch with me about future homesteading ideas, they're curious about being self-sustaining. So like on the personal level, like what are the main components of creating a solar space, whether you're going to power your whole house or not? Like, what is it that you need in order to like have a residential solar situation? Because that's how most people engage me when this subject comes up.
Yeah, so really two things. Again, our specialty is that the utility scale side, but when it comes to residential solar, it's really the same. So you're looking for clear, open access to the southern sky. That's going to allow you to harness as much solar power as possible from your property. You can mount it on your roof, or if you've got a couple acres, you can do a ground mount system. And again, with clear access to the sky, no trees in the way, no power lines, no other buildings, hopefully, then that will give you what you're looking for in regards to collecting solar energy on your property.
Yeah,
Andy,
Chris,
what do you think?
Yeah, Chris, it's worth pointing out too, as you mentioned, a south-facing roof is very important, but also your local utility, whether it's a co-op, a big investor-owned utility. They may have specific programs, specific to your location too, that can impact your ability. How much can you build? What credit do you get for it? And that varies market to market. So you want to, you can certainly research a lot of that information online. There are online resources to find out the residential programs specific to your area. But there are also solar companies that specialize in residential solar that are good resources. Even if you have no intention from buying from like a Sunrun or somebody like that, you can still just go and pick their brains and learn more from the residential side.
Gotcha. So just to sum that up, folks, it's not necessarily a free-for-all. From what I'm hearing, you can't just build solar and then, I guess, be completely off the grid. There's probably some amount of regulation or other people you've got to talk to.
Well, I would say you could certainly build and install your own solar system if you had the electrical engineering and electrician skills to do it.
Gotcha.
But there's probably also reasons you would have to be confident in your skills to be completely off the grid, right? It's not as simple as building a solar system and you've got power all the time. It sort of depends on your specific needs and situations, and there might be reasons why you'd still want to have a grid connection for backup reasons, because obviously even though solar has improved a lot over the last several decades, still doesn't work at night, at least not yet.
Gotcha. All right, I like that, and thank you for just taking the time to get that granular, because what you all actually do is utility solar, and that sounds kind of intimidating until, at least to me, until I started to learn more about this and engage with you all more. So what is utility solar?
So the main difference is, as we just discussed, we're talking residential solar, so smaller scale, that's mainly designed to work with your residents and provide you power. Utility scale solar is designed on a larger scale, and that delivers power to the major electrical grids. So if you look at a large transmission line that's made out of giant steel towers and runs across multiple counties, that's the type of power that utility scale solar taps into and delivers power to that grid.
That's right, Chris. Yeah, I mean, easy distinctions. If you're looking at the power lines in your neighborhood that feed each individual house, those are what we call the distribution grid, versus maybe the big lines that you see running alongside interstates, at 69 kV up to 500 kV. Those are going to be your big transmission lines, and utility scale is looking to tap into those grids that then get distributed across the electric system.
Gotcha. What is, in your job, now that we're talking more about the utility stuff, what's like some of the more challenging parts about utility solar? I'm sure you probably could talk about this for for days or months even, but like what are like 2 or 3 of the biggest things that you find difficult about this regenerative energy space or renewable energy space?
So the easiest low-hanging fruit of that answer is land use. And so utility scale solar generally requires 600 to 1,500 acres in size. And so with that being said, there comes a land conversion that's generally required for us that you usually don't find that degree of acreage that's being underutilized. It's usually being utilized to its highest and best use, whether that be farming or pasture for ranching, recreational lands, what have you. But if an owner has the opportunity presented to them because they live near one of these transmission lines, they have a couple hundred or a few thousand acres that we can use, they want to diversify their income stream, that's where we come in. And so we'll convert their land use from its current use into utility scale solar for industrial power generation. And it provides great benefit to the landowner. It provides benefit to the community in terms of jobs created for that community. So there's value that comes along with it. There are certainly some challenges from the land side, but definitely a lot of value to not only you as the owner, but also your community as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's first and foremost the land and the community that you're looking to engage with. And frankly, just like anything else at an industrial scale, if the community is not interested in having a project like this, then it's not a good partnership. And so we want to be places where the community wants a project like this. The other thing I would just throw out there, slightly different than land, is when we're talking about solar, even though it's 100 megawatts is a good size utility scale project, it's still different than how the electrical grid in the US has evolved over the past century. And so actually getting connected to the grid is a major challenge as well, because our system has been set up for large coal, nuclear, and gas-fired generations that are typically further from urban load centers or even manufacturing load centers at times. And so the process of connecting to the grid is challenging, because the utilities, I would say, are still learning how to incorporate renewable resources, and then even a step further, incorporating energy storage and battery resources is just different than how they've done it for the past 100 years or more. So that was just a slightly different challenge, but still on the same scale as land.
All right, so then that brings us to Kentucky, which is where I'm licensed and where we are. And so I'm really, really curious about challenge is here. Like we have a really large state. We go all the way from the east, where you've got this wonderful mountainous region called the Appalachian region, which you're both very familiar with, all the way into, you know, the end of the Corn Belt, which is way far in western Kentucky. So on those two extremes, I would imagine that solar has different potential at either, or maybe none at either. But I'm curious, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities here in Kentucky?
Yeah, I mean, two things there, right? From an opportunity standpoint, if you've got a good segment of flat, large land that could work from a utility scale or a residential perspective, that's great. But we can work in any type of land. And we have a project currently ongoing in western Kentucky on farm ground that is currently in cultivation. We've got recreational ground as part of that same project. We have reclaimed coal mine ground that's also part of that project.
Wow.
So we can cover different broad types of land use with a large project like that. We work with challenges in topographical terrains, the type of land. There's opportunity through it all, and that's on the western Kentucky side. On the eastern side, you've got mountaintop removal sites. Those are being converted into solar power as well. So there's opportunity across the board within Kentucky, I would say.
Yeah, I think maybe one thing that's, you know, to be aware of, and it's certainly true here in Kentucky, other states as well, but things like wetlands and floodplains are areas that we want to stay away from, just from the potential environmental impacts, and potential difficulties in operations and insurance costs and things like that. So those you know, environmental constraints are a part of things in every state, but specifically here in Kentucky, and we're, you know, so we have to think about all that as we lay out the site and try to factor in those environmental constraints too.
Well, thank you for that. I've got one other burning question that I didn't prepare you for, and I'm curious to see how you all react to this. So, you know, we've had a lot of traditional uses and applications of getting power, and solar is new in terms of how we're doing it, how widespread some people want it to be or don't want it to be. And so in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, where do you see just the national, how do you think that the national power system looks? Are you I don't want to lead the question. How do you think that I know how I think it looks, but I think I will add on, there is a prevailing opinion for maybe people who are not into renewable energy to think that all renewable energy folks just want renewable energy everywhere, and there are some people that don't think that. What do you think renewable energy looks like in 50 years compared to our traditional modes of energy?
Me to start? To be honest, I don't, you know, the path over the next 50 years, I don't think is going to be that different than the path that's been over the past 50 years, right? It's generally, I would say, our electric grid has always trended towards reliability, economic benefits, cost effectiveness, and environmental attributes as well. So if you can have it clean, cheap, and reliable, I think the grid is going to continue to evolve in that direction. Now, of course, that has looked a lot different the past 50 years. The grid has evolved from wood-fired generation and heating and oil heating and generation to coal and nuclear and natural gas. And I think what we're seeing now is just that continued evolution of economic, reliable, and clean. And it's just that things like wind and solar have evolved over that time to fit those categories. But ultimately, I mean, it will still continue to be a mix. And I've, you know, me personally, I obviously work in the renewable industry, but my main priority is clean, cheap, and reliable. And I believe that solar fits well into that paradigm, and will be a big part of where we go moving forward.
I like clean, cheap, reliable. It sounds like a good stump speech. It's very succinct.
You know, unfortunately, like, energy is one of those things that has somehow gotten into this political divide where I really think it doesn't have to be, right? Like whether you're in a red state or a blue state, like, everyone should be in favor of clean, cheap, and reliable. And I think both red and blue sides of the political spectrum can be in favor of that kind of investment, and unfortunately it has gotten this spin where it's like an us versus them thing, and I don't know that it always has to be, particularly if we do it in a way that is equitable. And like Chris mentioned, the project we have here in Western Kentucky is in an area with some reclaimed coal sites, and part of what we think about is that transition. So like what kinds of people are available to work in this industry, and how can we think about that and making training part of the transition, and I don't know, it feels like there's opportunity more than conflict in my perspective.
Well said. I don't know how much left there is to cover that answer, but I would say you're going to continue to see a metamorphosis in the style of energy that's produced throughout the country, and a lot. If you look historically, innovation specifically in energy is usually driven by number one, economics, or number two, militarily. So those things are going to drive innovation, and right now I think you're going to continue to see the drive from an economic standpoint, but you're also going to find a climate drive. That's a new instance that has not really come into play with how power is derived, generated, and delivered to consumers. So you'll see a push more from the green, clean side of things. Does that make up a larger mix of the overall energy usage? It may not, but as long as it's economical and it's generally clean and it provides for national defense, that the grid will balance to those three requirements, I feel like.
All right, see? Look, I'm not always the smartest guy in the room, and that's a great place to be. These folks they're very, very brilliant people. We have one last stop to make, and that is to get them back to their car. They've got places to go. So thanks for watching. Leave your comments, questions, and all that jazz below. And if it's a question I think maybe one of them can answer, then I might be encouraged to pass it on and see if we can't get a better answer than just from little old me. So thanks, gentlemen, for riding along.
Good job, my friend.
And see y'all later. Peace.